Hello everyone. The artist I chose to do my PowerPoint on is George Segal. In his early life, George Segal was not a famous artist just yet. He was actually an educated man who loved creating art, a teacher, and a chicken farmer in New Jersey. Man at a Table was his first piece, and the story behind it is very interesting. George Segal, just like everyone else, struggled financially and needed to take out a loan to help him with his chicken farm, and he had a hard time paying it back. And the result of that is he was doing side jobs. He would teach or try to sell his artwork or do little side jobs to help bring in money. And he did a job for Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson brought him 3 boxes of dry plaster and wanted him to write a book on how the dry plaster could be used for kids' crafts. But instead, he had the idea to cover his entire body in dry plaster. In 1961, the result of him covering his entire body in dry plaster was the result of Man at a Table, and it was the major start for his art career. This piece is very intriguing as it shows a detailed figure of a human body sitting at a table with such a blank stare, almost like this figure is frozen in time. And the more that I look at it, I see more and more detail of the human body in the face, in the chest, in the feet. And I know that's what intrigued George Segal when he talked about creating this piece, is just he took it off and saw every detail of the human body. I know another fact is that he was intrigued that dry plastering a human did not kill them either. Another one of George Segal's major art pieces was the Holocaust. In 1982, the Holocaust was created, and it was Segal's first completed public commissions. It was eventually casted in bronze, painted white, and now sits in Lincoln Park in San Francisco. George Segal actually battled with wanting to do this piece. It wasn't until he met with a Holocaust survivor that he decided to create it. In fact, the model for the sculpture standing at the barbed wire fence was a survivor from the Holocaust. This piece leaves me thinking of the historic Holocaust and takes me back to a time of learning about it, watching documentaries about it, and just the overall feeling of sadness when you hear about the Holocaust. Also, looking at it for a while, it left me speechless, especially the figures laying down. And I learned later on that the figures laying down, George Segal made a reference to them from biblical stories. So one of the references is a lady is laying down with her arms out, and she has an apple in her hand, and the apple has one bite taken out of it as a representation of Eve. And I think it's really cool, and it gives you a little bit more insight and meaning of this piece from George Segal's take. Gay Liberation was another one of George Segal's sculptures that he was known for. It was created in 1979 with inspiration from the 1969 historic police invasion of Stonewall Inn. That was a bar where a lot of homosexuals went at the time. This piece was supposed to be casted in bronze and painted white and installed permanently right away, but it was pushed back to 1992 due to the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall riots, if you don't know, there were a lot of controversy after George Segal created this piece. Lots of division, like I said, controversy from people from both sides of the right and the left. From the right, people were, of course, outraged and struggling with an artist creating a piece on homosexuality. And on the left, they were struggling with the fact that they felt like there was no diversity, as all the sculptures are painted white and there's no person of color. And they also felt like someone who is homosexual should have created this piece, whereas George Segal was straight and married during the Stonewall riots. That was kind of the start of the gay pride movement. This piece to me is very liberating. It shows how important human rights were for George Segal, and it just kind of shows that he wasn't just doing the normal and what was comfortable with everybody, that he kind of stood on his own and wanted to create inspiring pieces that he felt were inspiring to him. And not only that, but he just wanted to be different, and he was okay with that. But definitely, it just really shows how important the human rights were for him to keep pushing, and so many years later still try to make this sculpture happen permanently. And here is my works cited page. Thank you.